Good morning to one and all. Welcome to the Public Administration BA first year, SEM 1 class. So I am very happy to see you all. Hope you have attended the previous class in which we discussed about the very basic concepts of public administration, like what is public administration, what is the scope of public administration, and what are the characteristic features of public administration, and what is the difference between public administration and private administration. All these things we have discussed in the last class, and we have also discussed about state, society, and public administration. What is state, what is society, and what is public administration, and what is the relationship between these all the components of public administration. As you know, state and society and public administration, as we discussed in the last class, they are interrelated and they have lots of interdependency upon each other. So now in this class, we are going to discuss about the third unit of public administration. And now let us start. I would like to show you the presentation as well. So are you able to see the screen? You can please drop in the chat box that whether you are able to see the screen which I have shared. Yes? Okay, good. So in this class, we are going to discuss about the evolution of public administration as a discipline. So when we see, as we discussed in the last class, I said that public administration, basically, if you see the activity of public administration, it is very old, because any society, for that matter, it has begun with the activity of the public administration. But when we study public administration, it is very young when compared to the other social sciences as well. So let us see how the public administration discipline has evolved over a period of time. Now, basically, it is divided into, the history of public administration. It is divided, or you can say, they come under the five broad, concepts or headings, like pre-modern conceptions, classical theory, neoclassical theory, behavioralism, and postmodern public administration. So when we see all the theories, which is the basis of any subject or any discipline, then in public administration, let us see how it has evolved over a period of time. Now, initially when we speak about pre-modern concepts, now what basically it has to say is, there are certain assumptions and conceptions of public administration during the pre-modern times. Now, what it emphasizes, it says that public administration is more an art than science. Now, what they believed is, it doesn't have any scientific principles, but basically it is more about the art. That is the more about, you exercise your authority the way you do it by yourself. That is the individualistic, but it is not a science which is applicable by all the people at all the times, at all the places. It is not one and same. This is a basic assumption of this period. And it is learned by practice rather than by studying. Now, when you see public administration, we talk about certain principles, which we are going to discuss in the coming classes as well. There, what we discuss is the principles which can be adopted by all in all the organizations. Is it right? Now, here, in these conceptions, they believe that public administration is nothing but it cannot be adopted or it cannot be learned by studying, but only by practice it comes. And it also cannot be taught to one person from the other person. It cannot be shared. The idea of public administration, the art of public administration cannot be taught to people. That is the basic assumption. And there is no distinction between the personal and the private matters of statecraft. Now, for example, in the olden days, in the ancient days, who was the supreme authority? King, isn't it? The king was the supreme authority. He was assisted by certain council of ministers. Now, they believed that when you're exercising your authority, There is no distinction between the personal and the private, because the king himself was the supreme. What he said was supreme. What he did was supreme. What he did was correct. Whether it is in the public or in the private as well, he exercised certain authorities. So that was the basic concept. Then there is no need of distinction between personal and the private matters. And good administrators, they are born rather than made. See, there are several, when we come across different people in our daily lives, we see different leaders. Okay. They may be the political leaders, or they may be the administrators, they may be the IAS officers or IPS officers, whoever they are, the people in the supreme authority. So what do you think? Good administrators are born rather than made. This was, the concept which was, assumed during those times. They said that good administrators are born. That is, they are born with the inherent qualities. For a person to be called as a good administrator, he should have certain qualities, isn't it? What they felt is, it comes only with the birth, not by, you cannot accumulate yourself, or you cannot gather those qualities from the society or from your learnings and all. So good administrators are born rather than made. That was the assumption during those times. And why? Because those people were born in the noble families, isn't it? See, all the people in the society, they were not given an opportunity to participate in the administration or to rule. The people who belong to the elite families, they only had the right to, exercise authority over the other people. They only were able to administer the people. So the basic assumption was, the administrators, they are born in the noble families. That is, the rich, the wealthy, the elite families, that is specific particular sections of the society, they are only eligible to administer. And administrative positions should be given on the basis of the noble birth, rather than, on the basis of merit. And administration's role was largely confined to providing law and order and collection of the taxes. Public administration was basically a regulatory one rather than the welfare orientation. As I told you earlier in the previous class also, in the ancient times, the concept was very simple. That is, to collect the taxes from the people and to, maintain law and order. That is, to safeguard the people from the external forces. It was very much, more regulatory one rather than the welfare orientation. That is, the people's welfare, the people's happiness, the people's, needs were addressed, but, they were fulfilled, but only to little extent. But that was not the major aim of any authority that exercised the power during those times. Then comes the classical theory. Now, when we talk about the classical theory, basically, it has got, you can call classical, the meaning of the classical could be, it can be old or very great. And the classical theory of administration is oldest, and it is the basis of, public administration theory. So when we talk about the public administration theory, in the last class, we discussed, who was the father of public administration? It was Woodrow Wilson. If you recollect what we discussed in the last class, Woodrow Wilson, the father of public administration, he was the first person, we can say, that is in the first quarter of 20th century. He said that he tried to, separate the politics and administration dichotomy. Then the functions of executive, it was also published during that time only. The classical theory, basically, if you observe, it has got 3 sub-theories. That is the administrative management theory, the scientific management theory, and Max Weber's bureaucracy. All these theories we will discuss in detail in the coming classes as well. Now, the classical theories was the main emphasis was to develop a universally valid theory of administration, which is applicable to the public and private administration as well. It should be universal. That is, any organization, if you take for that matter, the principles of organization should be implemented or applied in the same way. Now, you cannot say that, no, these principles can be levied or practiced only in the government organizations, or these principles can be levied only in the private administrations. That was the main concept of classical approach theory, which said that there should be universally valid theories which are applicable to all the kinds of administration. And the important point which you have to remember is the important classical theorists are Fayol, Taylor, and Weber. And others are Luther Gulick, Luther Urwick, and others. So they believe that structure of an organization is very important. And administration is universal, whether it is public or the private. And the principles of organization are very important for any, for ensuring efficiency and economy in administration. Now, what is the main purpose of any organization, which we discussed in the last class? For any organization, whether it is public or the private, sustainability is very important, isn't it? They look for efficiency, they look for the economy in the administration. And if you want to achieve the goals of an organization, every organization has certain goals, isn't it? All the organizations, they work to achieve or to fulfill the specific objectives and goals. So in order to achieve, to ensure efficiency and economy in any administration, the principles of organization are very essential according to the classical theories. But, for any theory, there are got certain shortcomings also. So there is certain criticism also on the classical theory saying that the principles are just like proverbs, they cannot be applied to every organization. And, the principles are contradictory in their own way. All these aspects we will discuss in detail in the other classes in which you have specific classical theories and all in specific. Then came the new classical theory. The new classical theory, it was popularly known as human relations theory. And it is very important in the theories because these experiments, which were primarily made by Elton Mayo, they have really shaken the foundations of the classical theory. Now, what did the classical theory say? That human beings, they work, the efficiency and economy can be ensured only through the organizations. That is a specific structure. There should be some structure and the organizations have to work through that. But Elton Mayo, what did Elton Mayo do? He conducted several Hawthorne experiments. These experiments, it has shaken, the foundations. What they have derived from these experiments is, nowadays you see in the social media, many reels you must be seeing. They do small social experiments, isn't it? That is in a given situation, how a human being behaves, isn't it? Suppose some person is in need and he goes and asks for some help. Some people do it, some people don't do it. But when they think that somebody is observing them, somebody is taking video of them, then they behave in the other way, isn't it? All these are the social experiments. So Hawthorne experiment was also conducted during those times, which made the employees, they were divided into two different groups and certain conditions were, framed so that they could behave in their own way. But what did the experiments reveal? That human beings are motivated by different factors. It's not only the economic factors. Basically, the classical theories, they felt that, men work for only money. That is the economic factors. But human relations theory emphasizes that no organization can work only with the prescribed, workflow or chart. There are employees who work by discussing among themselves. That is, apart from the formal relationships, there are informal relationships in any organization. That is, you cannot avoid it. For example, suppose, you must have gone to, when you go to the college or any organization, what happens? You take, for example, now when then you see the strikes in the by buses or autos for that matter. Suppose if certain things are, the employees are not satisfied, what do? They go on strike. Is the strike official? No, it is not official. But the employees, they discuss among themselves, they share their grievances, they discuss their problems, and they come to a conclusion saying that, okay, when we are approaching the management for the issues what we are having, it's not, fulfilled or satisfied. Then what will the employees do? They go for strike. That is the informal relation between the employees. Now, and all the people, they take decision together. Even in the Hawthorne studies, what happened is they said that, suppose, example, in a particular day, if you produce some 100 items, some bonus will be given to you. And above that, another bonus will be given. What they expected is human beings work for money, isn't it? Now, suppose they might work more and more to get the more bonus. But to their surprise, they did not get so much of, outcome. Now, what is the reason? There are different reasons for that. The employees who are working, they discussed among themselves. They said that, why should we work more, more to get more money? Suppose if only the people who are 10 people working in an organization, they produce 100 output. If only 5 people produce the 100 output, then another 5 people might be removed from the jobs, isn't it? There is a possibility by the management, because management always looks for profits. So that is the reason when people, when the social scientists, when the thinkers, they felt that human beings basically work only for money, it was, ruled out in the human relations theory. They said, it came to the conclusion that the people, they work not only for the economic reasons, but also for the social reasons. Then comes the behavioralism in public administration. Now, this was, another important behavioralism or the behavioral theory in public administration. In the evolution of the public administration, there are several contributions like, by Bernard or Simon. Through their contribution, that is the book they have written, that is the Functions of the Executive and Administrative Behavior. And Simon discussed about the decision making. This also we will discuss in detail in the later classes when we are discussing about Simon in very specific, like how decisions will be taken, how decisions should be taken in an organization, what factors should be considered, all these aspects, So that is the reason why public administration subject assumes a great importance, not only in our studies, but also in our daily life, because whatever we study here, that will be applicable to our life also. When we talk about the decision making, then we will be able to know what are the best ways of, making a decision. What are the alternatives? Even in your life, when you have a doubt, suppose you want, you must decide what you should become. What will you do? You will have certain choices, isn't it? But you have to choose one best choice. So how do you do that? By seeing, what are the pros and what are the cons and what are the different factors and what your strengths and weaknesses. Keeping in all those in mind, you'll be able to make a decision. So all this, the rational thinking of human being, everything we'll be studying in the Simon's decision making and all. And the central important point in the behavioralism is that in between arts and sciences, the methods of study of natural sciences are also applicable to the social sciences, like management, political science, and public administration. But in the pre-modern assumptions, what we studied, what we discussed, that administration is not a science, it is an art. But in behavioralism, they emphasize that just like natural sciences, that just like any other sciences, even the same methods will be applicable to the studies like public administration, management, political science, and all. And the main, the center point here is the behavior of the individual administrators rather than the organizational structures. Here, they have not given importance to the organizational structure. Now, where have they given importance to the organizational structure? In the classical theory. But in the behavioral theory, they emphasized more on the behavior of the human beings, because that is very important for any organization. Only if the human beings are motivated, only if the human beings have, inclination towards the goal of any organization, then only you will be able to achieve the goals of any organization. Otherwise, it is very difficult. Then value fact dichotomy also assumes a great importance, because you need to consider the different facts, what are they, before making any decision. And what are the values, all these aspects, they contribute a lot during the decision making. And other concepts like, informal organization, I spoke earlier, that is the relationship between the informal relationships between any employees. For that matter, it may be for the employees, it may be in the communities, it may be in the schools, colleges, wherever it is. And they're very particular about that. And informal relationship you cannot ignore in any organization. Then communication, leadership, decision making, all these are, important components which we study in the behavioralism. Now communication is a very important anywhere for any organization, isn't it? And leadership, we see different styles of leaderships, because that you will study in the next classes. There are different kinds of leadership, like, generally in our daily lives, not all people are leaders, isn't it? Some people, they come forward, they take the initiative, they take the decision, and they try to solve some problem. In our lives, we should try to imbibe those leadership qualities. Now, for example, in the classroom, if the teacher asks, see, there will be around 20 to 30 students, isn't it? All are of almost same age group, generally in any conventional. If you take in the open universities and all, probably there might be difference in the age and all. But basically, you all sail in the same boat. Assuming that you have the same knowledge of public administration, you have attended the first class and second class. If I ask you, can how many of you will come forward and discuss what I said in the last two classes? So how many of you will come forward? Yes, how many of you will come forward? Please post in the chat box. See, how many participants do I have? Around 15 participants, right? So in case, if I say, will you be able to come forward and take some, responsibility of explaining to other students or helping them, how many of you will come forward? Yes? Anybody? Okay, good, fine. So, yes, very good. Now, among the 14 to 15, very good. At least 3 to 4 of them will come. Not all, no, right? Why? Because all human beings are not, they're not same. Everybody have got their own strengths and weaknesses. So in our daily lives also, suppose you're going on the road, you see some fight is going on or some conflict is going on. Then what you do? Some people stop, they try to resolve it, or they call 100, and, at least some initiative they take towards the society. They feel they have some kind of, responsibility towards society. But some people, they go on their own way. That is a routine way, isn't it? So what makes them different from the others? What makes them different from the crowd? Why only some people, they achieve the goals in their lives and they're able to convince other people? See, all people cannot convince all the people, isn't it? So we have got our own thoughts, we have got our own minds. But when a person comes and try to, influence you, there are different factors. That could be the leadership, that could be the communication skills, the ability to convince you and all. So as the students of public administration, you should try to really analyze the different styles of the leadership. For example, there are certain charismatic leaders, there are political leaders, all these, what qualities they are having. Suppose you have any role model, okay, in your life. So why are they role models? You should think about that. Why the particular person is a role model in your life? Probably there are certain features, the nature of the person. What nature? See, exactly nature. Is he bold? Like, or he or she has certain qualities to influence others? Do they think good for the people? They try to solve the problems of the people. They try to listen to others. So all these are the characteristic features. So what are those characteristic features which are making you to, assume that particular person as a role model? We should try to imbibe the qualities. Every one of us have certain, strengths and weaknesses. We should always try to improve, work on our strengths, and try to weaken our weaknesses. So that will make you a leader. And, by studying public administration now in the days to come, you will see how there are different leadership qualities and, what are the different leadership styles, so that we can, imbibe in our daily lives. Also, that will really help us. Then coming to the postmodern public administration. Now, postmodern theory of public administration, it talks more about the principles of democracy, egalitarian free polity. Now, egalitarian free polity is, the society wherein the people have got equal opportunities. They have the equal voice. They can raise their voice. Equal sharing of the resources is possible in the egalitarian society. And the important people who have postulated this postmodernism is Rorty, Giddens, Derrida, and Foucault. All these people, they have criticized the previous theories, and they said that basically they have rejected the concepts of neutrality of civil services or the principles of organization, which we spoke in the classical theory, or bureaucracy, which the Weber has spoken about the bureaucracy, and which is the stable force of any society. It has been mentioned for the regarding the bureaucracy, and the public administration is embedded in the bureaucracy. All these aspects they have totally rejected, and they have said that public administration is possible only with, when the state withdraws and when the market enters, then only it is possible, to achieve the, to meet the needs of the people. That is the main notion of postmodernism. Now, when we discussed about the different phases, now let us see how, the evolution of public administration has taken place. In the last class, we discussed that Woodrow Wilson, the father of public administration, he was the first person to talk about politics and administration differences. That is, he was the person who made a distinction between the functioning of the politics and administration. So we can say that public administration has started from then. That is in the year of 1887. Now, politics and administration dichotomy, it comes under 1887 and 1926 period. That is, it is the first stage of public administration in the evolution of public administration. And in the second stage, the principles of administration, that is from the year 1927 to 1937. See, whatever we discussed previously regarding the principles of public administration, that is, about Luther Gulick, what he said, and Urwick and all. So the principles are, that all comes under these principles of administration. Then the era of challenge, that is the third stage. 1938 to 1947, this is the period. And crisis of identity, that is the 1948 to 1970. Public policy perspective, that is the fifth stage, that has initiated, that has begun in the year 1971, but it is still continuing because, see, these stages, they are not very rigid. They are not, compartmentalized. That is, you cannot say that, no, this period is only public policy perspective and this is the new public management. They may overlap also. So you have to remember that though public policy perspective, it has started in the year 1971, it is still continuing because even today, the governments, public policies, they are taking, framing different policies for the welfare of the people, and they are implementing that as well. So all this, comes under public policy perspective. Then new public management, that is from 1980 to 1990, the new public management concept has evolved. That is the reason. See, why only after 1990s only the liberalization, privatization, and the globalization concepts, they have emerged. And why there were several changes in the form of governance. Why there has been changes in the functioning of the government. Why the private entities have entered the society, the functioning of the states. Because of all the new public management concepts only. Then the seventh stage is the new public administration as governance. Now, more or less, we are calling administration as the governance for the different reasons. And that is continuing from the same period. That is the post-new public management period. That is from 1990 onwards. So now let us see one by one what are the different stages. And I think this is very important for you from the examination point of view also. They might ask you, discuss the evolution of public administration and all. So then you have to write all these stages, 7 stages and all, and you have to describe them for each, for each stage. For example, politics and administration dichotomy, which we are discussing now in 1887 to 1926. Now, the basic thing is Woodrow Wilson's essay, that is the study of administration in the Political Science Quarterly. Political Science Quarterly was a journal. The concept was published in the year 1887, and he laid the major foundation of, he emphasized, he encouraged a separate, independent, and systematic study of public administration. Therefore, that is the reason why Wilson is called as father of public administration. Now, if somebody asks you, what subjects you are studying in your UG, BA, then you will say public administration, and other subjects might be sociology or history or English or whatever it is. So they might ask you, who is the father of public administration? Then definitely will say Woodrow Wilson, because you are listening to the class. But if they ask you, very good, it's Woodrow Wilson. But what is the reason? Why is he called as the father of public administration? Then you should be able to tell that he was the first person who advocated politics administration dichotomy, and he has written an essay which was published in the year 1887. Therefore, since he has laid the foundation for the emergence of a separate, independent, systematic study of public administration, he is known as the father of public administration. What basically he argued is, politics is concerned with the policy making, whereas administration is concerned with the implementation of the policy decisions. Therefore, administration and the politics both are different entities, and they should be separated from each other. And he also believed that administration is a science, and it can be applied to any organization for that matter. And see, there are different arguments by the different thinkers. And in this, when we study public administration, today there are several textbooks on public administration, isn't it? There are different authors who write about public administration. But the first textbook on public administration was written in the year 1926. And who has written it? L.D. White. And what was the title of the book? Introduction to the Study of Public Administration. You can say this is the first textbook on public administration written by L.D. White. So you have to remember this. And after this book is published, then only different universities started to offer public administration as a subject. Earlier, there was only political science. You would study some concepts of public administration under the political science. And today also, if you see, in certain universities, there is only one department, political science, and public administration is studied under political science. But whereas there are several universities where you have independent department, like for example, Usmania University, Ambedkar Open, if you take the case of Telangana, Usmania University, Ambedkar Open University, Kakatiya University, all these universities, they have different departments. That is, political science is studied separately and public administration is studied separately. But if you take, for example, in Andhra Pradesh, there is a, Yogi Vemana University. There is no separate university department of public administration. They have together. In the same way, there are several central universities all over India where there is a single department, political science. But now, keeping in mind the importance of public administration, importance of the governance, now they are trying, very recently, the departments have been started in different central universities, like, Department of Public Policy and Governance, Public Policy and Policy Sciences, Public Policy and Administration. These are the different departments which have been started in the central universities very recently. So the second stage is the principles of administration. This comes under 1927 to 1937 period. Now, in this period, what the people felt that there are certain principles which are very essential for the efficiency and the economy of public administration. And they said that we cannot do away with the principles. Definitely principles has to be adopted. So this stage, we can say that it has been started with the book by a publication by F.W. Willoughby. That is, he has written about the principles of public administration in the year 1927. What he said that, what he has asserted that there are certain fundamental principles which can be applied generally, and it has got the characteristics of science. Now, for example, why are they comparing it with science? Because science is, wherever you take, science is a science. Hydrogen and oxygen, H2O is water anywhere. That means it is uniform. So what they say is, even the principles of public administration, whether it is planning, organization, staffing, or coordination, all this unity of command, hierarchy, these are the different principles of public administration, and they can be applicable to any organization, is their assertion. And the stage of public administration, the stage in the evolution of public administration, the principles of public administration was more, in detail. It was written or discussed by Luther Gulick and Erwig. They have written on, the science of administration in the year 1937. So these are the few important years and works of different thinkers. They have, published their own publications. You need to remember them. Then the third stage is about the era of challenge. That is from 1938 to 1947. Now, what is the challenge? Because during this time, the human relations and behavioral approach was studied. Just before we discuss now in the behavioralism. So what they said is, the administration cannot be separated from the politics because of its political nature and political role. What the postulates of this era of challenge period they discussed is, administration is not only concerned with just implementation of the policies, but also they play an important role in the policy making. Therefore, we cannot separate administration and politics. That was the main emphasis in this during this period. And also the principles, they were criticized. They said that there is no scientific validity. They cannot be, applied to all the organizations. So all these aspects, and the Hawthorne studies, which were made by Elton Mayo, they have really, they have ruled out that human beings don't work only for the money and only in the organized structure, but they have got their own set of norms and all, and they work accordingly with the social relations, that is the informal relationships and all. So that gave rise to the human relations theory of organization. Then stage 4, that is the crisis of identity. Now, from the 1948 to 1970, the period is described. It is described as the crisis of identity. Now, when the politics and administration dichotomy and the principles of administration, they suffered from the crisis of identity, because many of the scholars, many of the people who have really supported public administration, later they have come back to the political science only. What like for example, John Goss, he has written an article entitled Trends in the Theory of Public Administration. And Roscoe Martin, in the year 1952, he has written an article called Dominion of Political Science over Public Administration. So now what was it, many people written back. So what is public administration? What is the identity of public administration? Whether it is, the part of political science or whether it is an independent study, all these were, there were several doubts. So the identity crisis was very much visible. Then fifth stage, public policy perspective. That is, the main theme in this stage was public policy analysis. Now, public administration, they were showing much interest in the policy science, political economy, policy making, and policy analysis and all. See, because when public administration, unless there are policies which are in favor of the people, then you really need to understand how the policies should be framed. What are the different factors you should consider and how it should be implemented. So this is nothing but a science. You have to really understand why certain governments, they succeed in the elections again and again, and why few governments fail. We can say particularly, majorly, there are different factors for that. We cannot deny it. But main thing is the policies which they take. If the policies are in favor of the people, then they accept the government. Suppose the policies, they are against the people, they feel, then definitely that government might not come again. So these are the different factors which the governments, they should keep in mind while framing the policies for the people and all. Then stage 5th is public policy perspective. Then, public administration, the major contributors of this for this policy perspective is Harold D. Laspel and Dror. They are the major contributors in understanding, multidisciplinary approach is very much essential for the public administration. That slowly you will come to understand when, this is only later in the different concepts when you study, you will be able to understand how multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary approach it is important and how it is relevant to the public administration. And here one should try to understand that what exactly public policies are. Public policy is what the government chooses to do and also what it doesn't want to do. See, it is not only one way. That is what government is doing. That is only public policy. Suppose government also doesn't want to do certain things. That is also, for that also it frames the policies. So all this comes under that. And, the next is sixth apart, because public policies, it has not ended with that particular period, but it is still continuing. And sixth stage is new public management, that is from 1980 to 1990. And the phrase new public management, you should remember this is important point. The new public management phrase has been used by Hood in the year 1991. Now, what they have advocated is primarily 3 M's in the public services. Now, what are those 3 M's? Markets, managers, and measurement. Now, what they felt that writers like Fair and others, they felt that new public management, with the introduction of these 3 M's, that is the markets, managers, and the measurements, that can reorient the public sectors. Now, for example, earlier while discussing about the differences between public administration and private administration, what we said that profit is the main motto of the private administration, whereas service is the main motto of the public administration. But in certain public sector organizations, what happens when there are no profits? Definitely, they have to maintain, isn't it? They have to meet the certain expenses. When they're not able to do it for a very long period, then what happens? Many of the public sector organizations, they will be closed, isn't it? So they have to keep in mind about the market. See how it is functioning. Whether if you have to compete with the private organizations in providing the services to the people, so they should be able to sustain themselves. So measurement of the performance is also very required. See, earlier, there was a lot of craze for public, government jobs. Why? Because there was a thought, there was a thinking that whether you work or not, government job, if you get once a government job, then definitely you're staying very long. That is till retirement, and you'll get pension and all those things. But gone are the days. Now, that is not possible. Even if you're in the government service, you have performance measurements, you have, all the indicators are there, you have to fulfill them. You are accountable to the people, you are accountable to the higher authorities and all. So, you have to work same like the private organization. Otherwise, the organizations cannot sustain. To take for that matter, any government office, these days, there's a lot of variation in the performance. If you compare, see, all this comes under, the research. If you really, in the future times, when you complete your graduation and post-graduation, then you have an opportunity to do the, research and all. Even now also, when you observe, if you have interest, you can see the performances of the different public sector organizations, how they are functioning. And, what is the outcome? What is the, how much they are spending money, and are they able to really sustain? But ultimately, the main goal will be the service of the people. That is not changed. But, the unnecessary expenses and all this is not possible in the government sector, because you have auditing and all, you have pre-auditing, you have post-auditing, and all these things are there in the government. So now when we talk about new public management, now they emphasized for, that bureaucracies should not be very large. They should be very small, and they should be, competitive with each other. As I just told you, that there should be some kind of competition. It's not that we are in the public sector, we are monopoly and we do not have any competition. It's not like that. In order to sustain, you have to face the competition from the private players, as well as the consumer satisfaction. These days, especially in the days of social media and all, what happens? Suppose there are no good roads on when you travel. what they do, they take a pic and they post it on the social media, isn't it? Suppose you go to a government hospital, there you do not find the proper facilities. What do you do? What do the people do? They are not at all, they do not keep quiet, just they take the pics and they post it on the social media. So, the citizen satisfaction is also very important, and the public sectors need to work accordingly also. That is the main, emphasis of new public management. And the last one is public administration as a governance. Now, the new role of public administration, it was suggested by UN Assembly, and what it has suggested is overall, there should be improvement in the overall governance, and in response to the local, regional, national, regional, and the global pressures, and as well as challenges. Now, as post 1990s, what happened? The private entities, they have entered the functions, in delivery of the services to the people. Definitely, there is some kind of competition and all. That is some kind of pressure. That is privatization, globalization, and all. So now the role of public administration is nothing but to withstand all kinds of pressure. See, whatever the reforms comes, the public administration has to adopt itself. It has to sustain. It has to bear all those pressures and then come out successfully. Then these pressures, it restores the faith in the government. Then economic development is possible with equity and environmental protection. That is very important, for any government. Now, what do you think? Only development is important? No, isn't it? See, development is important, but apart from that, there should be, equity. That is, all the people should get the equal opportunities. There should be no inequalities among the society or the different levels or different groups, income groups of the people. At the same time, we have to protect the environment also. But unfortunately, what is happening these days? In order to expand the roads, in order to develop multi-story buildings, what is happening? They are cutting down the trees, isn't it? So what are we doing? Where are we going? Are we really going towards the development, or are we trying to destroy our own, earth environment? And what about the future generations? Now we talk about sustainable development goals. Now, what is sustainable development? Sustainable development is nothing but the development which can be achieved without compromising the needs of the future generations. For example, today, fortunately, we have enough water, isn't it? At least we are able to meet, when we are thirsty, we are able to drink water. When you go to, when you want to bath, you have water. Now, what is the situation in different countries, different places? Even in the Bangalore, it has got water crisis. But to some extent, it has got different reasons for that. But basically, when we talk about the natural resources, whether it is, pure air or water or, the vegetation, all this should be, we should enjoy it, no doubt. But what if we try to, use all the resources, whatever is available on the earth, only for this generation or maybe for another one generation, what about our future generations? Isn't it? How will they survive? For human beings, we need oxygen, we need water, we need vegetation, we need green trees and all. But we are trying to destroy our own, entities, natural entities, in the name of development. Now, for example, if once upon a time, like probably some 20 years back, when you would see around Hyderabad, there were several, grapevine orchards. If you ask your parents, if you're young, if you ask your parents, they'll tell you. And even today, even, when you see the high-tech city area or financial district, all these were, fields and all. But today you see concrete jungles, isn't it? On the one hand, we are feeling it is development. But on the other hand, what it is happening? Global warming, isn't it? Because of there are no trees. The temperature of the earth is increasing. Because of that, the glaciers on the mountains, they are melting. Because of that, sea level is, you know, increasing. Because of that, floods and all are coming. So now, for example, now if you see the recent incident in the Dubai also, Dubai is one of the most developed countries. The per capita income is very high, and everybody, they really, appreciate the development of Dubai and its lifestyle. But what happened? Human beings, they try, to play with the nature, isn't it? In that process, what happens? Who wins? Is it the human being or the nature? In this play, who wins? Yes, can anybody answer? Whenever a human being tries to, intervene with the activity of the nature, generally what happens? True, that is the nature wins, because human being is just a small particle. Nature is very, very enormous and very big, and we cannot just play. Human being thinks, that we are very, very intelligent species on earth. We are more intelligent than any other animals, so that we are able to have a supreme say in the, functioning of earth and all. But ultimately, when you see the whole universe, we are nothing before that. So when we try to intervene with the, nature's activities, then definitely what is going to happen is what we have seen recently in the Dubai's case also. Therefore, it is our responsibility as a citizen to safeguard the resources, whatever we have. Suppose in your house or, beside your house, some tap is open. You might think, why, what, see, let it go. Why should you feel that? What will happen if I say, off that tap? You are saving some water. We should not spend lot of water or, the resources. Though, see, buying capacity has increased now, no doubt. If for the certain, sections of the people from the middle class, they have become upper middle classes and they have lots of resources. But it doesn't mean that we have money, we can spend a lot, we can buy more, and, we can, use all the natural resources and all. That is not the case. Whatever we have to use it, but keeping in mind the needs of the future generations also. Otherwise, the whatever development, economic development and all, or whatever we are talking today, after one generation or two generations, everything will come to halt, and probably the human species might it might end up. So this is about the evolution of public administration stages, which we have discussed in this class. Now probably we have another unit also, I think. The next unit is the relationships between, public administration and the other social sciences. So do you have any doubts in this? Yes. Can we move to the next unit? That is the relationship between the other social sciences. That is the fourth unit of your, SEM 1. So let us discuss about this topic now. Now, basically, when we talk about social sciences, uh, so no doubts. So, okay, we can move forward. Okay. Now, public administration, it comes under physical sciences or social sciences. Yes. Can anybody tell me? Public administration, it comes under natural sciences or social sciences. We have been discussing, right, about public administration. So what do you think? Public administration, it comes under physical sciences or natural sciences or social sciences. Yes, anybody? Please message in the chat box. It comes under social sciences. Okay. Public administration, we keep talking, we have been talking. So probably by now you should have understood that public administration is majorly a part of social sciences. Generally, all the sciences, you have different like physical sciences, natural sciences, and humanities and social sciences. And public administration, history, sociology, economics, all this comes under social sciences. So there is a need to study about the relationship between public administration and the other social sciences. Now, why should we study means, see, the fundamentals of each subject, they are interrelated. In order to perform better, in order, what is the main purpose of public administration is nothing but to, serve the people, isn't it? To make the decisions which are in favor of the people. To have a comprehensive understanding, it is definitely very essential for, studying other subjects as well. For that matter, we have to study what is the relationship between political science and public administration. As I told you earlier, public administration has been separated, from political science. So what we can say, public administration, in the perspective, we can say that political science is the mother of public administration because it has been separated from the political science. And it is very important for us to know what is political science and how it is related to the public administration. Now, basically, when we try to understand what is political science, it is nothing but, we can say, it is a scientific study of polity or government or the political system or the state, and there are different instruments of the government. So all these aspects are studied in the political science. In political science, you also study about what is power, and what are the different sources of power, what are the different institutions of the power, and what is the legitimacy of the power. Suppose if somebody comes and say, or they order you, will you answer them or will you accept them? No, there should be some legitimacy, isn't it? That's why we have elections. In the democratic country like India, through elections, we, elect the legitimized power. That is, the people will be given authority only by the people, isn't it? Only if the people elect in the elections, the government will come into power. Otherwise, the government cannot come into the power. So the relationship between political science and public administration is very important because the first political science, it is related to the politics, and whereas public administration is related to the administration, and they work hand in hand. And it may be noted that political leaders and administrative officers, they work together, isn't it? Now, for example, when elections takes place and when you elect, whether it is MLA or MPs or prime ministers and all, though they are elected, they will have a team of officers who are from civil services, isn't it? They could be from IAS or, IPS or IFS and all, IES and all. Now, when the decisions are taken, the primary data will be submitted by these IAS officers. Then the political leaders, they'll be able to take the decisions. And once they take, and the implementation part, that is the duty of the administration. So they have to work hand in hand. Therefore, it's very essential to understand the relationship between the political science and public administration. Then the relation with the economics also. Economics is very important subject, we can say, in the social sciences. And what is the relationship between economics and public administration? What it has got to do is majorly economics. It is a scientific study about the the components and the economy of the country. It deals with the production aspects, the consumption, and about the monetary budgeting and financing, banking, and all these things. Now, when public administration, they have to implement certain schemes and programs, they have to keep in mind the resources also. Now, for example, now this is the election time. Now, what will the political parties do? They give several freebies. Now, what will happen? Will they think that how can we meet those needs of the people by giving them freely? No, they don't do that. They just, they promise. Now it is whose duty? That is the administrative people. They have to think about the resources. From where will the money come? How much money should be spent? And where the money should be spent? And all these aspects. See, money is very important, even for the government. See, money is important for us at an individual level. At the same time, it is important for the government also. It has to understand what are the resources, how much taxes it is able to collect, how much money it is being able to spend, how much money is spent for what program or what scheme, what are the priorities of the government. All these aspects have to be kept in mind. Therefore, economics, there is a relationship between economics and public administration also. So to whether to lay the roads or whether to build the reservoirs or to for anything for that matter, whatever the work is done by the government, the money is involved, isn't it? And that is the part of economics. And the relationship between the sociology. Now, what is sociology? Sociology is nothing but it is a study of human society. And we have discussed in the last class how the society emerges. It emerges with the group of people living in a particular area who have certain small needs. They try to fulfill the needs of each other, and therefore the society has emerged in the different days. Now, when the government frames certain policies, and when it tries to implement, it has to keep in mind the social dimension also. the social equations also. What are the different social categories in the particular state? How many people belong to which category? What are the needs of those people? Why are those specific social categories are backward? So what can be done to uplift these weaker sections? So all these are the different aspects, and this is possible only with the help of sociologists who will be able to understand the different communities, their equations, their there are different institutions in the society, all these things, because people generally, all the any you take any country, especially country like India, people have different faiths, different customs, different traditions. So all this has to be kept in mind, because suppose if we do some when they try to do something which is against the traditions or the customs of one community, then definitely the government has to face the challenges. So for this purpose, they have to have understanding about the society and sociology also, and relationship with the psychology. You must be knowing psychology is the science of behavior, which we know, we try to understand the mental status or mental behavior of the people, how it varies from person to person. All human beings are not same, isn't it? We have different psychological aspects, we have different motivations, we have different leadership qualities. All these aspects come under the psychology, and it is very essential, because public administration, why should we know the about psychology is because when an administrator he tries to perform his duty, he should be able to understand what is the the behavior of his employees, what is the behavior of the people, what are their motives, how can they fulfill their needs, aspirations. Suppose there are certain issues in the law and order, then they try to understand what is the major problem in the society, why this major issue has come. Suppose there is some kind of dharna or something, they try to understand the psychology of the people. They have to understand, otherwise they cannot perform their duty. And the relationship with the history. So history is very important for all of us, because history is a study of the past. And unless you know the past, you cannot perform the duties of the present, and you cannot, chalk out the program for the future. Therefore, you need to understand what happened in the past. Because suppose when we talk about the British rule, what happened? All the resources of India were depleted. Then later, 1947, we got independence. Then there were several challenges, economic challenges. The people were in the poverty, no education, illiteracy levels were high, all these aspects. Now, in order, still those things have been continuing, because many of the people are living under poverty. We're still facing the challenges. So every administrator has to know the history. They have to understand the roots of that particular problem. Suppose there is unemployment in India, suppose there is poverty in India, why there is a poverty, why what the governments have done since 1947. As a student of public administration, we should be able to understand the functioning of the governments in the different periods, what policies they have done, how much it has reached the people. All these aspects have to be taken into the consideration in order to become a good administrator. So this is about the relationship between the public administration and history. And the last is public administration and the anthropology. Now, anthropology is also very important, because it is nothing but, you try to understand about the human being, its origin and evolution and all. So in the process, there are certain categories which are very, we have to safeguard them. We have to, when there is a development, we have to consider all the groups of the people. And there are certain communities which are, very away from the regular society's mainstream of the state. Then we have to consider their development also. For example, there are certain tribes in the different nooks and corners of even Telangana. When you take certain Adilabad forest areas, or Warangal forest areas, you find certain tribes and all. So it is a responsibility of the public administration. It is a responsibility of the government and administrators to consider all those. Suppose if they say in one forest, they are going to start one big, industry or, factory or something like that. What will happen? Can they do that? No, they should not do that. Even if they try to disturb the forest living, then definitely they have to face the challenges. There are certain people who are living there. You have to consider their needs and, their aspirations and everything from that perspective also. For that reason, you need to understand the concepts of anthropology also. So that is the reason why public administration needs to have, close association with the other social sciences. They have to understand about the other social sciences also, so that any problems, whatever is expected, they can be solved at the initial stages only. So this is bit about the relationship between public administration and the other social sciences. So with this, we have completed 2 chapters, that is the evolution of public administration, as well as we have completed the relationship between public administration and the other this thing. Now, can you, if anybody has any doubts, you can please, we have crossed the time also. It's time to close. Are you able to understand what is spoken in the class and what we are discussing? Are you able to understand? Yes. Is anybody there? Are you listening? Okay. So, important questions. Okay. See, important questions as the class goes on, no? I am telling you. See, evolution is important, isn't it? I have told you that. And relationship between social sciences, this is important. See, when you listen the class, no, definitely whatever is important, I'll be able to tell you. But what one thing I would like to tell you is, whenever you understand the concept, whether whatever the question it is, then definitely you will be able to understand with examples. You can give examples also. It's not necessary that you write everything, pinpoint what is there in the textbook, because public administration is more about the society, about the government, about the administration, about the contemporary times and all, and what you experience each day. And, the changes takes place every day as well. So you can write with examples also. Important points to cover. See, I'm discussing all the important points only. And so what exactly important points? See, whatever I discussed, all those are the important points only. So I hope you all understood. And actually, we have crossed our time also. We shall meet in the next class with the next topic. So thank you, one and all. I'm closing the class. Thank you.